she's at in the local scene. Dead ends and dingy bars where they can't recall her story. Legendary, the canary, man, she can sing. But this town has a lot of those. It's not that original, baby.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Two Beers with the Band. I'm your host, Chris Schramm, and you were listening to the song Trophy Wife Tragedy by my buddy CJ Brewer, who is a singer, songwriter, musician, producer, special event performer, and all around nice guy. So, CJ, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you're sipping on, and we'll get started.
So I'm gonna be sipping on Delta's THC seltzer. It's a passion fruit flavor, zero sugar, zero calorie, and zero proof, but very, very yummy. And I picked this up at Cartwright Food Hall after my show there this past Wednesday. I got a couple drinks on my tab for playing, and uh, this was the drink that I ended up choosing, and gonna sip a little bit of it here today with you, Mr. Chris.
All right, I'll be sipping on Dry Hopped Pilsner from
Uh,
Print Shop Beer Company. They're out of Knoxville, Tennessee. This is a 5.6 ABV Pilsner. Oh, and I am ready to get it in the glass and get started.
yeah,
All right. While I'm waiting on this to settle a little bit, why don't you tell everybody what a event performer does?
sure. So, an event performer is somebody who essentially gets hired to perform at private parties, corporate events, and weddings. But I also do public performances and original music showcases and events as well, like small festivals, bar gigs. But basically, anywhere live music is needed, an event performer is essentially going to show up and put on a great show for the people in attendance at whichever event it is. Each event kind of requires different levels of preparation and sort of different outfits and different set lists, but um, I find that all of them are valuable to experience for me just because they keep you really sharp as a performer and they're ultimately just very fun to do in general. So that's a little bit of a summary of what an event performer is and does.
Okay, how does someone hire you for an event? Are you with an agency? Do they have to come to your website or is it a combination of the two? How's that work?
I'm a completely independent artist, so I actually don't book through an agency, but rather I have several contacts in the music industry in my scene who will sometimes send me gigs and book me for certain events. I also receive leads through gig lead platforms, and my website and my social media accounts too. Someone booked me on Facebook for a wedding just a few weeks ago. So I just basically kind of think about it like a bunch of different pools that I'm surrounded by, and my feet are dipped in all the different pools. And sometimes you catch a fish, right? So you have all these sort of threads open, and depending on where someone sees you, that might lead to an opportunity. But I don't have an actual booking agent or like a label that I'm affiliated with.
All right, well, I'm going to take a sip of this Pilsner and we'll get on with the interview.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Well, this Pilsner is fairly clear. It's pretty beer. It's a little bit lighter in color than what the camera is showing,
Yep.
but it is very hoppy. It really is. This Pilsner is a little hoppier than what I prefer. Um, Doesn't really have any sweetness to it. Is crisp and very clean. Those are definite pluses about the beer, but it's a little hoppier than what I prefer. It's not a bad beer. It's just not really what I'm looking for as far as a pilsner goes. Um, what types of music do you play?
Yeah, I play all kinds of different music. I play songs from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. I play pop, top 40, country, folk, R&B, pretty much anything that will make people happy, I try to learn. So if you come to my show, you'll hear anything from Rupert Holmes to Tom Petty to Fall Out Boy to Green Day to um, BB King, and everything in between. It's just a variety show, and I like to try to do and learn as much as I can because I think that's the beautiful thing about music is that you're always learning something new. And to me, songs are kind of like a way of unlocking your ability and your potential.
Is there a musician or a band that you aspire to be like?
That's a good question. There are a few like singers and artists that I really admire and look up to a lot because of how they approach the art and their music. A few that come to mind, I really love Chris Stapleton. Um, Absolutely love Dave Grohl's approach to songwriting and melody. Um, Stevie Wonder is another one. I get a lot of like my R&B influence from Stevie. Um, but these are kind of like obviously very big shoes to fill, and very accomplished performers. But those are some names that come to mind when I think about like the greats and what I aspire to kind of create with my music and the vibes I try to create. Another one's Brendan Urie. I absolutely think he's phenomenal, and I feel like I listened to him a lot as a teenager, and a lot of that sound, that like pop punk alternative rock sound is present in all my covers, regardless of genre. Um, so you always get like a little bit of a unique spin on every cover I do just because of my roots.
Okay, that answers a question I had a little bit later on,
Oh,
which
okay.
is, do you put your spin on the music that you play, or do you kind of just play it straightforward, or kind of a combination of the two?
I think that's I can elaborate more on that. I think that's a great question. Because me personally, I feel like it's essential for me to put my own spin on it because when people come out and see me, I don't want them to walk away being like, "Oh, that guy like was so good at like replicating the song." I want them to say, "Oh my gosh, CJ's cover of Another Brick in the Wall was so unique and I've never heard it performed quite like that before." And that goes for any and pretty much every song on my set list. And I feel like the musicians I work with fall in one of two camps. They're either like very free flow, like, yeah, dude, play it your way. I'll just go along with it. Or they're like, you didn't play that chord right. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like whenever I cover anything, I feel like I'm always kind of filtering it through my musical mind, which isn't a formally trained mind because I'm self-taught. So sometimes certain details I think get lost, and that's actually something I'm working on improving as I continue to perform and get better at music is refining my attention to detail.
What band is your favorite band to cover?
Oh man, probably Green Day is gonna be my favorite band to cover just because like they're the first band that got me into rock music and him and I have very similar like ranges naturally. So I find that that music, those songs really got me started on like my journey learning covers, like Brain Stew, When I Come Around, those kinds of structures and melodies, um, all kind of Time of Your Life, all of those had sort of a very pivotal role to play in me eventually expanding my repertoire because they gave me like the foundation to understand songs and how structure works in music.
How did your musical journey begin, and what were some of the challenges that you had to face?
The long story is that I began pretty much the minute I could vocalize. I was singing, and the minute I understood where the pots and pans were, I was making like a drum set on the floor as like a kid, right? And boop, 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 and then going crazy. Um, but I would say like when I like knew I wanted to be in a band, like every kid, I was 15, 16, just wanted to pick up a guitar. My brother had gotten one, and he kinda left it, like, in a corner after a few lessons. He just was like, "I don't get it. It's not really clicking for me." I started picking it up, and I found there was just a I won't say an affinity because I was not a prodigy, but I really liked messing with it. I just really liked figuring it out, and that turned into eventually joining my first band, and then joining another band, and then joining another band, and then joining another band. And when I joined like my fourth band, that's when I found out that you could actually make money from playing covers. And that really was where things kind of started picking up, where I started to kind of have a goal of like, oh, I want to like perform at places and get paid to perform because it feels so good to perform for people. And that's kinda how things took off. I would say the challenges, though, were definitely, like, number 1, the learning curve, cause being self-taught and not, like, having musical parents, like, I really had to choose to do music. Like, every day I had to pick up the guitar, and there were a lot of people that told me, um, that I wasn't great, that I should quit, that it was a very lofty dream. And people still, I think, see someone like me who's really going for it and committing 100% as much as I can to it. And, I probably look crazy to some people, but it's just so fulfilling. It's such a fun journey. I don't know what else I would be doing with my time here. So I carry on. So that's a little bit about the start and the hardships.
What is your favorite occasion to play for or play at, and then why?
I love playing for private parties where they just tell me, "Do your show," because I get paid well for it, I can do what feels natural, um, and, um, usually, like, the vibe of the event is really cool, and it's a new experience for me. Um, I also really love doing, original music showcases, like festivals. Um, a few of my favorite, like, sort of venues here to play originals, Smiley's on the Rocks is one. I love playing for the Nexus Nebula Festival here in the upstate. They just got this festival rolling a few years ago. I've been a part of it every year since it started, basically, and they always want to hear my originals. I love intentional listening rooms and audiences. Like, even for cover gigs, like, when people are, like, locked in with what I'm doing and really into what I'm doing, and I can tell they're following the decisions I'm making while I'm performing, that really elevates the experience for me.
Do you make pretty good money being an event performer?
Yeah, I make pretty good money. I do know people who make more, um, but I am making more than I made when I started in 2023. Um, so when I started in 2023, it was mostly bar gigs or benefit concerts or just playing for free.
Mhm.
And then in 2024, started just upping the bar gigs, which always pretty much pay. And then in 2025, I invested in some training to become a more private, higher end performer. And the training has kind of led to some better paying shows where I've basically been able to triple quadruple some of the quotes I would do for bars or some of the pricing I would do for bars.
Okay. You have a full-time job besides music.
Yes, absolutely have a full-time job outside of music because of my current financial situation. I I'm currently working on the goal of becoming debt-free. And
Nice.
once I'm debt-free, my plan is to do music full-time. But until I'm debt-free, I have a job to support myself, and I know once I have paid off the things I need to pay off, that I can likely do music full-time. It's just a matter of getting there, and a matter of continuing to persevere, and that's another benefit of doing music as a second career. I don't like to say side hustle. I don't like that set of words because I am a career performer. Like it is a career. I work two jobs. I am a teacher and I am a performer. Um, and I'm a professional in both cases and in both situations. But the cool thing about having both kind of working in tandem with each other is that I can take the money I'm making from music and reinvest it in my small business and also in paying off debt and getting ahead.
What is the biggest risk you've taken in your career, and what did you learn from it?
Wow, that's a great question. Dude, I think the biggest risk honestly was it was a few years back. I was dating someone. It felt very safe, but I wasn't very happy within the relationship. And it came to a point where I had to choose myself and what I really wanted to do, or choose to stay in a relationship that I wasn't really happy in and that wasn't really fulfilling. And the biggest risk I took was choosing myself, was betting on myself and saying, "You know what? Like, in order to really commit to being a performer and to commit to really giving music a chance in my life, like, I have to take this leap of faith, um, leave this relationship, and go for my dream." And so, I would say that was probably one of those pivotal moments for me.
How do you define success in your musical career, and have you reached that level of success?
Um, right now, I feel very successful. A lot of the people that I used to make music with, who, um, I used to be in bands with, who I used to follow musically and keep up with and see what they were doing, a lot of them have stopped. And the fact that I'm continuing the journey and continuing to see wins and successes for me, uh, feels great. That said, I think that you can feel successful, but that can also be a motivator to be more successful. So, like, yes, I am technically successful. I'm earning money from my small business as a musician. I'm playing pretty nice events. I'm getting hired to do weddings and corporate events and stuff like that. But could I see myself growing from here? Absolutely. I think sky is the limit. I think the ladder of success as a musician goes as high as you're willing to climb it, and I'm not stopping the climb.
Can you tell us about a failure you've had in your music career and how you bounce back from
Hmm. I'll tell you about, like, a failure in the past and a failure kinda more recently. So, a failure in the past, was someone had told me that I should not be, singing or performing, and I let their words get to me, um, and I stopped for a few years. This was when I was, like, 16. I stopped singing until I was about 18, 19. Really wish that I had ignored that and just done what I love to do because, yeah, was I great at singing back then? No, I absolutely could not have been doing the gigs I'm doing today as a 32-year-old man at 16, as a lad of 16. Uh, but, um, so that moment, I wish that I hadn't let that criticism get to me. And I consider that a failure of letting what someone else thinks dictate how you live your life. Like you should always live and act in accordance with what feels right to you. If you are doing a task or an activity and it feels good to you and it feels in alignment with yourself, like that is all that matters. And that's what you should be doing, especially and totally if it's not hurting anybody. And then more recently, I would say, um, one thing that kind of stands out to me is I auditioned for it was like a local singing competition. It was Blue Idol up at the Blue Stage in North Carolina as the venue. I can't even remember what city this is in, man. This was in 2023. I was like, it was the summer, and I was like, I'm gonna do another singing thing. I'm gonna do it. And I went and did it, and I made it to the second round. There were, like, 4 rounds. So, first round was, like, 36 people or something, second round was 8 people. So I made it to the second round, and, um, I think that I should have approached that whole thing differently, um, and I should have had, like, my vocal warm-up routine a little more dialed in, but that's again, if it the failure was redirection because it taught me new things about my voice and myself, and it also taught me, the value and the power of perseverance, of not letting a setback stop you from truly continuing to learn and grow as an artist.
I've noticed that you create loops live on
Yeah.
stage, and in the videos that I've watched, you create loops and play the music. Talk to us about creating loops because that's not something that I see a lot of here in Nashville.
I find that interesting you don't see it a lot in Nashville. I would think that it would be more common with a town of more musical people.
Yeah, but there's so many musicians here that nobody has to create loops. They can find anybody they need to play an instrument.
That's true, and that's sort of where it stemmed from, was when I was starting, uh, in bands when I was a teenager, like, I would want people to do certain things, and they would either just not wanna, or they'd be unable to, and I would hear it in my head, like, "Oh, it would be so cool if we had, like, a cutout here, or, like, a stop here, and then come back in with an impact." Um, and so some of it was lack of access to musicians, which then turned into, well, I wanna feel like being supported by, more than just my guitar. Like, I don't wanna feel naked. So some of it was like a fear thing too of like, like I feel naked just strumming and singing." So the looping kind of for me is like I would imagine it's like the superhero putting on the freaking outfit, right? Like, you're putting on your armor, and it's kinda like a protective thing. Um, but the technical side of it, to speak more to that, because now I find that I actually have a quite a few musicians who are willing to jam with me, and I've got a dedicated sort of core group of players that kind of keep up with me in my journey, who fill in for me and with me when I need to kind of put a band together. So that's not as big of a concern anymore. It was more of a problem in my past, in my like early 20s and late teens. The technical side of it, though, that's more like I use a foot switch looper. It's the Boss RC300. So basically, you loop by pressing foot switches, almost like a piano player would press different pedals on the piano to create a different sound. You press a pedal on your looper to start a sequence, and then you press it again on the one of the next measure to complete the sequence. And you basically do that for different parts. And I run a Helix into my Boss RC300 looper. The Helix has a bass guitar setting and a chorus setting and a distortion setting. So I will change the color and the tone of my guitar using the Helix, and I will layer about 2 or 3 guitar parts with a beatbox percussion and create a band. And that's kind of the technical side of it, is creating that band from scratch. But I always did it because it just felt more safe to be supported by more. Uh, and I can get a little bit louder when I perform, so having like the full band behind me, that full sound, feels like it's a little bit more fitting for what I do.
What tools or instruments are essential for your creative process?
Piano and guitar. Absolutely cannot live without either of them. I mean, especially recently, I just bought, you might be able to see it, I don't know, there's a piano behind me over here. Uh, but I just bought this piano. I bought this piano from this sweet older lady in Hartwell, Georgia. She was just like, my daughter moved out and I was just trying to get rid of it, and she let it go for super cheap. I'm sure this piano cost way more than she sold it for, but getting this piano changed my life because it's teaching me how to play with both hands, which is kind of opening up the neural pathways in my brain of like this hand and this hand can be independent and do different things. But also, the piano is a great tool for warming up your voice, which has been invaluable for like my gigs and singing for 3 hours. Usually, a lot of my shows are 3 hour shows. So like the piano and warming up efficiently with it has been a huge help. The guitar is my go-to songwriting instrument, though. I find that piano is kind of how I practice. Guitar is how I create. They both go hand in hand for me, though.
So, would you call yourself a creative person?
Absolutely. Um, I mean, I think even outside of music, like I dabble in video editing and production. I mix my own music and master and produce. I love graphic design. I like to design posters and flyers. Yeah, I think like I would not be who I am without the desire to be creative.
How much time do you spend learning other people's music? And would you say it's time well spent?
It's definitely time well spent. I would say that depends on the song how long it takes to learn. Um, Sometimes it will take me months because I will be listening to a song I really want to learn to really understand like the DNA of the song. And then I'll go to that next step of, oh, I need to like play it on the piano or I need to put it on the guitar. And then that's a whole process of what are the chords? Do I need to transpose the key to fit my voice better? Um, Do I need to change the tempo? Because sometimes I'll learn a song and then realize, oh, you know what? Lady Gaga actually sounds really cool in the style of a reggae song. So like sometimes too, like you'll learn a song and then a year later come back to it and be like, oh my gosh, I just realized I could do it in this completely different style and change how people see the song. Um, but yeah, I think it's time well spent. I think it depends on the song. Um, I think that if I put my mind to it, I can usually learn most simple songs within about a week.
What's your favorite song to cover?
That's a good question. I keep saying that. They're all good questions. My favorite song to cover, so right now it's probably Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 because I have been neglectful about Pink Floyd and the amazingness of Pink Floyd. And I just love the groove of that song. Um, but I also love "Give Me One Reason" by Tracy Chapman. Both are just so fun and just so cool to perform. Um, and I'm currently working on "Why Should I Worry" by Billy Joel, which is in the movie Oliver and Company, the Disney movie with the dogs and cats in New York City. Speaking of cats, my cat is currently yelling at me to give her pets. So go away. But um, I did that song at karaoke night a few weeks ago, and it's a challenging one, but I'm excited to keep kind of picking away at it. It's been one that I'm really excited to integrate into my acoustic show. So yeah, I mean, those are just a handful. Um, there's so many. Only the Good Die Young by Billy Joel is one of my favorites to do. Um, I love Can't You See by Marshall Tucker. It's so overdone here in South Carolina. It's like everybody's anthem, but I don't know. I like doing songs that everybody sings and knows how to do. They're fun to me. So those are just a few.
What is the most difficult song that you perform on the stage?
Hmm. They're all easy. No, just kidding. Uh, that's not true. Sometimes, Santeria gives me trouble. It's one of those where I kinda feel like it's a toss-up, like, depending on the day you hear me, you're gonna get, like, the Grammy level performance of it, or you're gonna get, like, the, "Okay, it's passable bar rock," you know? Um, that one sometimes will be more vocally than anything just because of how it sits, but, um trying to think of Johnny Be Good gave me some trouble, mainly the solo. Learning the solo correctly was a little challenging for me at first, because it's very technical in how it's played. Um, and yeah, I would say those are definitely those are some tough ones. My old band at one point was learning Paradise City. Oh, that one gave me a time, man. Axel is crazy. He's so talented. At least he was when he was younger, and that one threw me for a loop. We had to give that one up. We were so close. We were so close, but that band's old news now anyway. But yeah, those are some challenging ones.
In your bio, you say you'll travel up to 300 miles to play a show. Why did you choose 300 miles?
I think that the gig lead platform that's on chose it for me.
Oh,
Because technically, if someone's willing to pay travel costs, I will go most anywhere. And like I will make it happen, is my thing. Like I've never flown for a gig, but dude, if someone wanted to fly me out to California to hear me and they were willing to pay for that, like, I'm talking at that point, you're probably paying what, 5, 6 grand. But like if they're willing to do it, I'm gonna make it happen. I will get a luggage for my looper. We will make it happen for this person. So I would say that that's more of an arbitrary thing because of the platform that's on. I'm willing to travel pretty much anywhere. And I even was talking to a couple. We ended up going with custom songs, but they wanted me to come to Florida for their wedding. So that almost happened. So yeah, I mean, pretty much if anyone's able to pay the travel costs, I'm willing to do it.
gotcha. Do you get paid by the hour or by the event, or how's all that work?
So like usually it's based on a lot of different factors. So like for private events, minimum for me to just show up with my guitar for an hour is 500. Um, but if you need me to provide sound, if you need me to provide lighting, if you need me to do playlists between breaks, if you need DJ services, MC, wireless mics, all of that factors into cost. And it's actually one of the most challenging things to navigate with a client because I tell them, like, listen, if you rent a PA system for you to do announcements at your event, that's gonna cost you like at least 500, if not $1,000 to rent. Like, so you have to kind of be, you know, mindful of those kinds of costs. But yeah, like I would say it's based on equipment, time, and budget. Because places with certain budgets can only do so much. I also look at like shows like bar gigs and lower paying shows as lead generation events So yeah, maybe I wouldn't make as much as I would at a wedding or a private event playing a bar gig, but throughout the bar gig, I'm saying, if you want to book me for a private event, I just launched my website. If you would like to have me for a luxury or corporate event, I just launched that service. You can find it on my Instagram. And I have a QR code that I direct potential clients to then go and access those things. So all of it is lead generation at the end of the day, and you're kind of trying to put into people's minds, I do this as a professional. You can trust me to make your event amazing, and I will do it because I am great at performing and singing for people.
So you understand the business side of music business.
I feel like I'm starting to. There's always something to learn, and there are certainly people out there, mentors of mine, other musicians I've come into contact with, who I think have a much better grasp of the business. But I will say, I think that as I am now and the man I am today understands the business side far more than I did 2 years ago. Um, and I think that looking at what I do as a business fundamentally changed how I operate as an artist. Because it's all sales. I mean, like, for better or for worse, because there's pros and cons to it. We live in a capitalistic society. Everything is sales. Everybody's trying to sell something. Some people just understand that fact, lean into it, and do it really well, whereas other people try to fight that system. I'm more of the mind of work within the constraints and work within the system and be a rebel within it. Right? Like, be somebody who is pushing the envelope and who is challenging what we feel is right and normal, but also I'm not going to sit here and play victim and say, "Oh, it's against me. The system is rigged." No, no, the system is only as rigged as you say it is. You have to make your own luck. You have to save yourself. And I think if more musicians understood that and stopped playing the victim and started just doing the work they need to do, they would get further. I know I needed to hear that way sooner. Like, well into my 20s, I was telling myself, like, "Oh my god, it's the game's rigged, it's against me." And it's like, "No, no, it's not that simple." Like, everybody has to fight for what they want. You just have to be willing to get up and make the choice to fight every single day to get what you want and to achieve your dream. So, there's a little bit about that.
So would you say you fight every single day?
I would say every single day I am pushing for something. Um, is every day the same intensity of fight? No, I mean, just like, a good comparison, going to the gym. Every time you go to the gym, you're not gonna push your hardest. Like, you should probably only have 1 day a week, maybe 2 tops, that you're really maxing out and pushing to failure. But if you're wanting to maintain what you're doing and do fitness for the long term, you're gonna have kind of more of a curvature rather than like a straight incline of progression. At least that's been my experience. Um, so I would say you are definitely pushing, like, in a way, not with your music. Like, I don't think like you're pushing like your voice or pushing harder with your fingers, right? But rather you are going to come up against resistance and challenges. And you have to be willing to sometimes be uncomfortable to make progress. And I think that some of my success is due to the fact that I've gotten better at dealing with being uncomfortable than I used to be. Um, and it's hard. It's not easy. Stephen Pressfield talks about this a lot in his book, The War of Art. I recommend that book to anybody pursuing this kind of life. I find it extremely helpful to go back to because it really reminds me, like, we're all fighting some sort of a battle on multiple fronts as artists, and our job is to continue to do the work even when it feels like we're not making progress.
So I take it you go to the gym, right?
Yeah, I do. I go to the gym. I go to the gym 3 times a week.
Do you think physical fitness helps with your creativity?
I absolutely do, and I feel like there was a time where I used to think, like, that stuff was a distraction. Like, eating healthy, going to the gym, it's just gonna take up so much time, like, why would I do it when I could just play the guitar? But it's, like, the opposite for me, and everybody's different, I'm not trying to say my way is best because everybody has their own creative process, everybody has their own way of writing and making music. But I will say for me personally, I have found that going to the gym, getting my diet back on track, eating whole foods, healthy foods, nourishing my body and treating it like a temple has led to some of the best performances and the best songs I've ever written because I'm operating from a place of mental health, happiness, and stability.
Speaking of mental health, do you think mental health plays a role in your music, in your creativity?
I think that I draw a lot on times when my mental health wasn't at its best for my songwriting. The interesting thing is that I would consider myself a fairly happy person, but my songs are not always happy. And I think that's because I use my songs to process tragedy and to process, hardship. And the songs become this like beautifully coded way of saying, dude, I struggled with this thing in my life at this time, but let me tell you about it in this beautiful sounding way. And then you could maybe relate to it as a listener and get something out of it that helps you feel happy too.
So, would you say playing songs heals you?
Dude, I would absolutely say like music is therapy. Music is one of those tools that, like, anybody can, like you can literally just go, "Da da da," like, you just hum, and that's healing. Like, it's literally like, everybody has an instrument inside of them that they can use. You can clap your hands, stomp your feet. It's this accessible medicine that we all have access to, and that is so beautiful, and I think that that's definitely true, that it can heal in the right circumstances.
Where's the coolest place you've played?
There's so many places that are so cool. Um, so that Nexus Nebula festival I was talking about earlier, they do it on, like, a riverbank, and it's on this, like, huge piece of farmland, and there's, like, open skies, trees, you can hear the river flowing, kids are usually there playing by the river, people have, like, their stalls set up, it's like a vendor market, mini Woodstock, and that's such a cool vibe to me. 'Cause it really feels like I feel like I'm in my training arc as a performer and a musician. I feel like the bigger moments are still in my future. I feel like I'm working towards the Woodstocks, but to have, like, a festival in my area that's local, that is like a mini version of that, feels like the perfect way to train for the big thing. So that's part of it, I would say, or that's one of the, more, more my favorite places to play, or one of those places that really stands out to me. Um, I mentioned Smiley's on the Rocks earlier. It's just a beautiful sounding space. It's a very intentional listening space. Um, there's another place that I'm gonna be playing at next year. It's called Po Mill Music, and they have a beautiful space and stage. So some of those are some that kind of come to mind.
What is the craziest thing you've seen while performing?
Craziest thing I've seen while performing was with my band a few years ago. Um, this little person walked into the bar and was like, I'm talking like a dwarf, like he was maybe 3, 4 foot tall. And he was just like walking in with his buddies, getting lifted up and crowd surfing while we were playing. And it was awesome. It was so cool. Um, And I know that, like, I think the correct term is little people. Um, but he was cool, and I talked to him after the show. What a down to earth guy. Um, and he was just like, "Yeah, man, you guys sounded awesome." And I was like, "Thanks, dude." It was so cool. Um, that's one of the crazier things I've seen. I had one open jam where this guy, like, was trying to get us. It was me and a group of musicians on stage at this point. We were, like, in the flow of a jam. We had finished a song, and he was wasted. I mean, so drunk. Like, we couldn't understand him, and he was, like, yelling, "Play blah, blah, blah," and, like, we were like, "Bro, what are you saying?" Like, we could not understand the words coming out of his mouth. He, like, sounded like Jabba the Hutt speaking the Huttese language from Star Wars, and we were like, "We don't know." Rah, rah. We, like, tried to make the sound he was making, and he was like, "F off, you guys suck, like, the worst jam band ever." He, like, walked out the door. Um, so those are some of the moments. There's one positive, the dancing little person, and then the drunk heckler.
Would you encourage indie artists to promote themselves by playing events?
Yeah, I mean, I think visibility is everything in our social mediated world. Um, and like I said, I've gotten a lot of really cool gigs just because people were like, I Googled Greenville musician and you popped up. And the reason I pop up is because I'm hashtagging Greenville musician in every single post. Like, and I'm posting on Facebook probably 3, 4 times a day. Um, maybe 2 times on lazy days, but I post a lot. I think it's really invaluable for indie artists to do things. Also, like, play with other acts who are like you. You know, if it's 2 metal bands and you're an R&B singer, like, don't do that show. That's gonna be weird. You might pick up a few followers from it, but, like, try to get a group of artists that are similar to you in sound, um, and say yes as much as you can. Obviously, like, have boundaries, of course. Like, don't overwork yourself, but if you get an opportunity to perform, even if it's just a few songs for free and you're just starting out, like, do it. Start getting your name out there. You have to start.
How important is social media to an indie artist?
I mean, I think it's invaluable. If your goal is to grow, if your goal is to build a business, if your goal is to create a sustainable income from your art, you just have to have social media nowadays. I do think there is something to be said about word of mouth. I'm not discounting it, but I think if you really want to take your profession as an artist seriously, you have to kind of bite the bullet, get on social media, and start doing something with it. And I think that there are ways to do social media strategically based on your goals. We can get into more of that in another question, perhaps, but I don't think every single artist should be doing social media the same. I think social media should be looked at as a canvas. Your painting on that canvas is going to look different from everybody else's painting, but you gotta paint.
How much original music do you have?
A lot. I just haven't released a lot. Um, like, I have 2 EPs on Spotify that you can find. They're old. One of them's from, like, 2016, the other one's from 2019 or 2020 or something. They're really old. Um, and I am currently working and planning to release 2 singles before the year's out. And you guys get a preview because I told you about it here on Riverside and on this podcast, 2 Beers with a Band. But yeah, so I have 2 singles coming out hopefully by the end of this year is my plan. I just got the masters back, so more original music is coming, but I definitely like for 2026, my goal is to put out more music. I absolutely feel like I need to put out more originals because I love to write and I'm pretty good at it. Um, and I think I've been afraid. It's been the thing I've been very afraid of is me posting a song and it flopping. But I also feel like I'm not I I only have a limited amount of time. There's like checklists out there that are like, you have to do this, this, and this before you release your single. And as someone who works full time and does music as a full time job almost too, like I can't always hit every single thing on the checklist. I am making like a vow to myself. I am not gonna let perfectionism make it impossible for me to release music in 2026.
Well, I know all writers and all musicians have unfinished work.
Mhm.
How many unfinished songs do you have?
Probably in the 50s, just like songs that I'll write, you know, record a voice note and then I'll never touch. And then I'll go back and be like, huh, what is this voice note I did in 2021? And like be like, oh, that was a song idea I had. Dang, I totally forgot that was even a thing. It might even be in the hundreds, man. I'm not gonna lie, because so much stuff, like I'll just like do a verse and a chorus. And if it doesn't stay with me, I'll let it fall by the wayside. And that's kind of my one of my rules is I'll write at least up until the first chorus and I'll sit on it for like a week. And if I don't find myself going back to it within a week, I'll probably have moved on at that point.
So once you've shelved a song, do you come back and revisit those songs, or do you just kind
So
of let them go? And
sometimes I will revisit, especially if a gig is like an original song showcase. I have to go back and look at old songs and I kind of look at it as like excuse me, I kinda look at it as, like, I'm excavating an archaeological site that was forgotten. It's like, "Oh, what's behind this rock? Oh, I don't remember this statue being here," and I'll, like, start to kinda peel back the layers and be like, "Oh, this is crazy, I didn't even realize this song was a thing I remembered how to play." And then I'll kinda re-remind myself how it goes, and that's partly how I'll get ready for, like, original music events, is to go back into old songs. So sometimes they get resurrected, for lack of a better word.
well, I read you went to college. What was the college experience like for you, and was it worth it?
Yeah, I went to college, so I went to Christopher Newport University in Newport News, Virginia, for a whopping 4.5 years. I was a late graduate. I graduated a semester late. Um, I graduated in 2015 in December, and I think it was absolutely worth it. Um, and I even got my master's degree after. Uh, I think college is essential for teaching people how to communicate. I think college is essential for creating a long-term plan and following that plan. I don't think you can be a successful musician if you aren't thinking about 5 years into the future. Something else that made my college experience very fruitful was my awareness that I was not the biggest fish in the pond. I was not the greatest guitarist or singer in college. I would still say I'm not, but, like, at the time, I was very not good. Like, I couldn't even get through, like, a whole Red Hot Chili Peppers song, much less play a solo note for note. But something I did do in college was I met myself where I was, and I tried to do as many musical opportunities as possible. So while I was in college, I did men's chorus for 3 semesters. I would joined an a cappella group for a year. I did and was an extra in a musical production of Rent at my community theater. I filled up my plate with as much music as I could while also getting a professional degree because I knew 10 years into the future, I knew that me today would need that knowledge. And I can't tell you, like, Chris, I can't tell you what put that idea in my head that I would know that at 32, I would be doing music professionally. But I just knew as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid that I was gonna be doing it for my whole life. So I was like, let me just get as much in my brain as I possibly can. And that wasn't even just relegated to college because while I was in college, I was in an original band and I was in a cover band. Actually, I was in 3 original projects and in a cover band. So, like, all of that was happening while I was in school. I just absolutely tried to fill my plate as much as I could with musical things.
So, how many bands have you been a part of?
Let me count. Um, uh, s 8.
8.
Yeah, 8.
Have well, playing with 8 bands, how many different genres of music did y'all cover?
My cover band did the most variety. Uh, well, so I was in 2 cover bands. My most recent cover band, they decided I'll say this, we had creative differences and decided it was best for us to part ways. And I hold no amnesty towards them. I think that they made a decision that was best for them and where they were, and I'm actually pretty glad of the outcome of that because the band that I was in, and this was literally a few months ago I was in this band, they are older gentlemen, they're in a different point in life, they're doing it more as a hobby to make some money. I'm really trying to make my music into a career, and I think that that misalignment was creating some challenges, and I'm actually very glad that they made a decision to go with a different vocalist because that's ultimately what they chose, and I'm very supportive of that decision and wish them nothing but the best, and I'm very proud of them for the work they're continuing to do. Um, and then there was another cover band I was in college. Just before grad school, I ended up having to leave that band because I was in a different state at that point. But that band and the cover band that I was in introduced me to older rock and like Eagles, Bad Company, Black Sabbath, Guns N' Roses, Judas Priest, like those kinds of bands, Lenny Kravitz and artists. Um, but the variety was actually, I think, more spawned from me exploring my vocal ability and what I naturally felt good singing. Um, And when I was starting out, I always kinda gravitated more towards, like, smoother, like, Jack Johnson, John Mayer type vocals, and, um, rock vocals kind of happened as a result of singing for a long time. I got more experienced and could pull it off. But, yeah, I would say that the variety came more from me as a solo artist. The bands I was in, they were mainly rock, pop punk, alternative rock. And everything else that I learned kinda came from just my own self-exploration.
So, your original work, what
Mm.
genre would you put it in?
Absolutely would put it in I would put it in the blues, alternative, and southern rock genre. The word "y'alternative" sometimes gets thrown around here, and I would say we're definitely in the y'alternative branch at the moment, but I feel like I lean a little more into, like, the rock rather than the y'all. I do feel like there is some Southern influence in some of what I do, but at my core, I think I'll always be, you know, into and comfortable with alternative rock as a label.
You've said that you want to grow as a content creator. What does that mean to you? And do you do
Mm.
anything on social media other than music?
So right now, the goal is to make content to get sales. So I'm I'm creating content in such a way that my social media is essentially a storefront, is how I look at it. You see If you go to my Instagram, for example, like clips of me interacting with various clients and audiences, dancing with different people I've done private events and parties for. I really like my content, at least at this point in my creative journey, to show a buyer what I can do for them as opposed to show off what I can do. I really like the idea of my social media being a vehicle to show someone what they're paying for when they hire me to entertain them, which I think is a different mindset than I used to have because I feel like my mindset used to be, I have to prove I'm good. And it's like, yeah, like obviously, like that's important. Like I want to post stuff that's good. But I think when like somebody is looking to hire you, they're not just looking at that as the central question. There are tons of talented people out there. Can you work a crowd? That's a whole different skill. You can sound amazing, but then when the song is done and you're just like, okay, okay, that's it. And then you get off the stage, like, dude, who are you? Where can I find you? Like, where can I listen to your music, bro? Like, there's so many questions, and I see it all the time. It's like people who are so good, way better than me at music, they'll perform beautifully, and then they'll have nothing else to say. And I'm like, "Oh, you're shooting yourself in the foot, dude. You literally could be so popular and so asked for, but you don't have the communication side down, and that's just as important as the music."
Okay. Two questions based off that. One, are you an introvert or an extrovert? And two, do you do anything in between songs to keep the crowd motivated, to keep people paying attention to you?
I would say I, at my heart, am an introvert, but I'm very good at playing an extrovert. When I get on stage, I am on, and I think that's part of the art of performing well is you're not just sounding good, you're winning over a group of people. You're making people like you. Uh, so that I think is like part of it is the introversion is like I'm at home. It's nighttime, I'm in front of the piano, and I'm really exploring music, like, I'm getting immersed in music, and I think that's my introverted mind kind of taking over because I don't wanna be socializing, and, like, my girlfriend can tell you, like, she'll call me, and if I'm hyper fixated on something, she's like, "I can tell you're not ready to socialize. Like, I can tell you're immersed in something and you're not fully with me." And I'm like, "You're right. Like, I'm working on a song right now. I'm writing something. I'm practicing a lick. I'm practicing a vocal thing, and I'm very immersed in it." And I think that is the introverted mind, and I think for me, it's partly essential to growing as a musician. But I will say, between songs, I find that if what I try to do is I try to follow like a 3 or 4 song rule. So I don't like to talk between every song because that looks to me amateurish. In fact, like a band I used to be in, it was like between every song there would be a break for tuning and a break to talk. And it would drive me crazy because I'd be like, these people are not here to look at us tune our instruments. These people are not here for us to just talk. They're here to hear music. Um, so I try to do every 3 songs, and I try to, like, listen to the crowd and respond to them as if I'm in the crowd. So if someone is, like, complaining about something, I'll be like, "Yeah, that does really suck, I agree," and, like, I'll try to, like, pretend I'm part of the conversation even though I'm on stage because it's funny, and people don't expect it. Um, and then it also forces them to be like, "Oh my gosh, like, this isn't, like, a person in the background, like, this is a performer I can engage with." It kind of plants that subconscious thought. And then another thing I like to do is just remind people, like, they can scan my banner to follow me and to book me. Like, you're always putting out those feelers, and anytime the crowd refreshes, I also like to say something. Like, if I notice 5 or 6 new people come into the bar, I'll wait like a song or 2, and then I'll say the same spiel of, so for those of you just joining us, I'm CJ Brewer. Scan the QR codes over here to learn more about me. I'd love to see you on my social media. We just passed 1,300 followers, and that's all because people at my shows have been following me. So please help me out. Like I really like to think about performing as this like almost cyclical transactional conversation that's just always happening.
How do you balance your personal life with music?
I don't. No, just kidding. It's hard. It's not easy. I will say, so for me, what I find helpful is, um, I try to have at least one day a week that is for me like a decompression day. And you caught me on one of those. We were texting and it was like a Sunday and you're like, "Hey, like can we talk about this real quick?" And I was like, "I'm so sorry, like I'm resting. I want to talk, but I take that like rest time seriously." So that's kind of how it started. Was I started to kind of pick one day a week where I can indulge my vices. Like I'll have a whiskey on the porch and really just chill and kind of relax. And that's become like my Sunday afternoon. Um and then when I'm not at work in the office, I have 2 days a week I work from home. On the days that I work from home, that time I'm using mostly for um doing like side activities related to music. Um, and then interestingly enough, there is, at least at this point in my life, there has become an integration between my social life and my musical life. Like a lot of my friends know that if they want to hang out with me, they kind of have to come to a show because it's just happening so frequently. Um, or make sure you get me out. Like one of my friends joked and she was like, "This is a busy man. You have to book him out 1 month in advance in order for him to talk to you." And I was like, "That's not necessarily true, but there is some truth to it.
Is
Like if you want to hang out with me, like you got to let me know at least a week or two in advance." Keeping a calendar is also how I've managed to balance the two worlds. My girlfriend introduced me to my Apple phone calendar, and it has changed my life fundamentally. I don't think I would be as on top of it without a calendar. Like, it is life-changing. If you're an indie artist and you're struggling to get your shit together, get a calendar. Start filling it in with what you're doing. You would be so surprised how much time you have and how much time you don't have week to week.
well, it's interesting you say that because I keep a calendar, like a for real calendar. This calendar is on me. I'm not going to say 100% of the time, but pretty close.
Man,
And
I imagine though, you work, you run a podcast, you obviously have musical hobbies as well. You got to, you got to.
I do a lot. And I'm telling you, that calendar right there has changed, like you say, has changed my life. There, I have notes all over this thing, like, booking artists for the show. I talk to artists weeks and months in advance, and I have to write
Mm.
down notes,
Yeah.
circle days, and then I try to get with each artist either the day before, possibly a couple of days before, and say, "Hey, are we still on for this time?" Blah blah blah. And I've run into a couple of artists that say, "No, we were scheduled for a different time." And I said,
Mhm.
"No, not according to my calendar."
According to
And
this.
the calendar has saved me a couple of times when I've been able to go back in messages and say, "No, I had it right." I mean, it just I agree with you basically is what I'm saying as
Yeah.
far as a calendar.
Two more things on this. One, a lot of venues, at least where I'm located and in my music scene, they are booking 3 to 12 months in advance sometimes. So, having a calendar and knowing in March of 2026, I have 4 shows currently. Like, that's really important, especially for staying organized and for, like, booking more shows. Um, and then another thing, I actually gained a gig on this past Wednesday because my calendar was so good. Someone hit me up on email, and was like, "Hey, like, are you still coming out and playing on this date?" And I was like, "We actually discussed this date. If you go up in your email thread, it was a Tuesday that we discussed." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Can you call me?" And so I called her and she was like, "You're right. Like the gig was scheduled on a day we actually don't ever have live music, and I put the wrong number in by mistake. So I'd like to offer you a makeup show." And we scheduled a makeup show for this week, this past week. So, it's funny how those things, they're small. They're like little things. It's not learning a new lick. It's not learning a chord or a riff. It's not working on your vocal warm up routine, but it does matter to being a career performer. It's a form of professionalism.
Right. How have you evolved as an artist?
I went from being a guy that could play one riff over and over again to a career musician. Uh, I There are so many ways, man. There's so many ways. I'm sorry, that sounded a little like I wasn't trying to sound like a jerk there. I was just like it was more shock, like, it's crazy to think how much I've evolved. Like, I can't conceive of it. Like, I remember as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old playing the same, like, Avenged Sevenfold guitar riff. And, like, I would play that for hours. Going from that to now singing 3-hour shows to, you know, being able to pull last night, I did a Lady Gaga song I hadn't performed in 5 years because some girl was like, "Oh my god, do Lady Gaga!" And, like, I was just like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And I just did it, and, like, it's so crazy, like, how if you stick with it and you continue to dedicate time to your art and your craft, like, the investment pays off, and I think I've said this already, but it's so rewarding, man. The journey is crazy. I imagine it's like in a fantasy novel when like someone discovers they can do magic and all they can do is like create a little fire in their hand to go from that to creating like a tornado in the sky. It's the same thing of like your ability increases and improves and it's like magic here on earth. You're like, "Wow, I can't believe I evolved to this level." And the thing is that I'm not even done. Like, I have just started to feel like I am in my, like, you know, second form of being a musician. The first form was just learning the stuff to begin with. The second form is like the performing art element of it and getting consistent. The final form is like, the Chris Stapletons, the legends, right? Like I'm in the middle of the journey and like, dude, it's been so much evolution. I'm so excited to see like in 5 more years. I can't imagine what I will be like, but I know it will be better than I am now.
Well, that answered a question I have a little bit later on. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? But if you continue to evolve the way that you're talking about,
Yeah.
wherever you think you would see yourself, you're probably going to be past that. You will probably continue to evolve.
I very much hope that in 5 years, that I hope that I'm doing more original music and more known for my songwriting. I hope that I am regularly playing more high-paying events, um, instead of just, like, your typical gigs, like, I really hope that I can continue to be desired in spaces that are, you know that pay musicians what they're actually worth. And I think that's just a thing I feel about all musicians. I feel like we're all worth so much more than people ascribe to paying or thinking. And I hope that that's a part of it. I hope that I am creating content based on original music, not just how well I can captivate audiences, but also like to show my production and songwriting ability. Um, I hope to level up as a producer. I would love to maybe take on clients as a producer. That's something I've yet to do, and I definitely could see myself doing it. Not on the scale of some of these, studios that are actually like real LLC studios, but I do feel like, being able to record a couple clients would be super cool. I mean, and I've already done custom recordings for people that are of me singing and performing. So I would love to think that maybe I could also help other people put out their music too.
How many albums are you a part of that it's not your album, but you're a part of that album for
Yeah.
someone else?
I am just a part of uh, oh, I was wrong about that. I'm actually a part of 3 other albums, I think, that are not like just mine. Um that like I did guitar on and like some vocals on, um and that were released or at least used by other artists. So like 3, not too many.
Okay. Why should I hire you for an event?
Why? 'Cause even when I make a mistake, I'm still not bad. And I'm very I'm also uh, pretty good at um reading the room. And I think that's a very important skill that not a lot of musicians have. I certainly feel like there was a point where I was playing music to show off that I could play music. And now my mindset is let me match the energy that I'm being given by this audience. So if the energy is low and mellow, I'm going to do more low mellow covers, right? If the energy is intense and fun and it's a party, like we're belting out Sweet Caroline, right? Um and then a final reason is if I know the artist and someone yells out their name, I will likely 9 times out of 10 do the request. So, yeah.
What do you want the audience to feel when they hear you perform?
I want them to feel joyful and happy. I want them to feel like it's a human in front of them. I want them to feel that there is a sincerity to the performance that they couldn't get from just listening to a recording because that's the beauty of live music is that there is a vulnerability, there's a humanity to it that you can try to recreate on a record, but I don't think recorded music comes close to that feeling of being present when you're singing and playing for people and they're there with you in the moment.
What do people not know about you?
Uh, hmm. A lot of people don't know that I am a video game junkie. I mean, it's bad. I have to like limit myself and it's like you we talked about the balance of like social life and um and performance life and I also feel like I am to add to the scale, it's like a triple sort of edged scale at this point. There is also like for me, like I am a gamer and I know it, and I have to be like very mindful of how much time I'm investing in video games, and I've gotten a lot better at it. Um, but there was a point where like I was seriously considering becoming a Twitch streamer. Like, I was doing Twitch every day, I was streaming, I was trying to get viewers, because I thought, like, that would also be, like, a path for me, but alas, music won the battle there,
Well, have you ever thought about writing a song that may be used on a video game?
Oh, totally. I mean, I think that is a matter of just getting more popular, um, because like, I think such a big part of music or the business of music is who you know. Um, like, one really good example, Craig Mason's daughter, she got to sing a song for the end credits of, one of the episodes of The Last of Us season 1. And The Last of Us is a very, like, popular video game franchise, so she got to sing and record a song for a video game, technically speaking, right? But it's not because she was talented, it's because she was the daughter of the director of the show. So I think, like, a big part of it is undeniably showing that you're great at music, people following you because you're great, and then you having the right person follow you that says, "Oh my god, like, I love this guy's voice," or "I love this guy's guitar playing, like, could he make a song for our video game? Like, can we hit him up?" So I think it's like, yes, absolutely, I would love to. If the opportunity presented itself, I think it's just a matter of getting in touch with the right people at the right time.
What's your favorite video game?
Oh my gosh, right now, I am immersed in Cyberpunk 2077. I'm a sucker for details. That game has so many notes and side missions and side quests and journal entries and collectibles and just stuff you can find. So I'm very, very into it right now. I love video games that like transport you to a different world.
Okay. What is your most useless talent?
Uh, I can roll my R's. And it's like not a usable thing, but I like to do it.
Yeah.
Um, Let me think if there's any others. Uh, hmm, I think that's it. Like, I don't have any others that I can recall off the top of my head that are like useful or that are yeah, that are actually like the talents I'm thinking of are generally useful. That's one that I'm like, "Eh, you could get by without that," you know? Whistling, it's kinda useful, but I don't use it a lot.
Do you think you could whistle in music? There's n
Oh, yeah, for sure.
there's an artist that, she does a great job of whistling in her songs, and I
Mm,
enjoyed her music, um, enough, and then I happened to catch her live, and she started one of her songs that she does a lot of whistling in, and
mm.
I was like, "Okay, now I'm gonna really super pay attention to see if you can pull it off live the way you did it on the album." And she absolutely nailed it, and I just became a much bigger fan when I walked away because that is a talent I don't see a lot of musicians having, and she
Yeah.
has that talent, and she put it to work in her music, and it worked very well.
I think you're right. I definitely feel like it's not a useless talent in terms of music. I think I was thinking more like day-to-day life, but in music, for sure, like, so I'll do a little shout out. There's an artist here named Julia Ruby. She does a lot of whistling in her original music and her acoustic performances, and, um I think it's absolutely beautiful if you can pull it off. My trouble with whistling is that I can whistle, right? But if I do it on a mic, it doesn't work the same way, and I don't know why. I'm trying to figure that out. Maybe I'll get it someday.
What is a guilty pleasure song for you?
Guilty pleasure song. One of my original songs, it's called Made for More. Um, it also has a parenthetical title. It's in parentheses. It's also known as Swamp Rat. And it's actually coming out before the year's out. That's one of the singles I'll be releasing. And it is my guilty pleasure because I'm basically just yelling throughout the whole song, but it's just such a great I like to do it when I'm feeling, like, very pent up, and it's just a guilty pleasure of mine to just tell the audience, like, "Guys, I'm gonna yell at you for 3 minutes, just try to enjoy it," and, yeah, there's just something very fun about it.
Where can people find out more about you?
Lots of places. cjbrewermusic.com is a great one. It's got my bio, my set lists, samples of what I do. Need to update it, but it's a pretty comprehensive look at me as an artist. So my website, um, my Instagram is also pretty big. I run a lot of my business out of my Instagram. Like I send my Instagram to bookers, venues, agents, whatever, you know? I send it to them because it has pretty much like a comprehensive, like, here's how many people follow me, here's what my engagement is like on posts, here's the vibe, here are reviews, here are samples. So I would say those two places are pretty good for learning more about me.
What should people expect from you in the near future?
Expect more original songs. Expect some reggae, because 'cause I've been taking original songs of mine and making them reggae, and they sound super cool, so I'm really excited to do more of that, like, when I produce. Expect more performances and expect more of a look into my journey, like more vlog style content where you see like me running an event from start to finish, like what that looks like, more client reviews, testimonies, um, more insight into different structures for private events, all that kind of stuff and more are on the horizon if I get my way next year. Here's hoping.
All right. Well, we're kind of up against the clock for this one, but I always
Sure,
finish my interviews with the same question. What are
sure.
two questions you've never been asked in an interview, and what are the answers to those questions?
Hmm, okay, let me think. I've never been asked about, like, how my family life impacts my music career. Um, so I'll answer that, because why not? Uh, so I have a very supportive family in general. When I was younger, my mom and dad both understandably had concerns when I, as a 15-year-old boy, told them, "Hey, I might not go to college because I want to do music full time." And they were like, "You're dumb. If you don't go to college, we're gonna kick you out." And I was like, "That's fair. I'm going to college." Uh, but I mean, that's the long and short of it. They would be so mad if they heard that. They'd be like, "That's not what I said." Like it's like, "I know it's not what you said. I'm just paraphrasing, guys. Come on." But I will say that like having a brother and a sister who come to shows, a mom and dad who see that I'm earning money at music and who are like, "Wow, like, we're so proud of the progress you've made, and we know how hard you work," make all the difference, and I'm very blessed and very lucky to have a family that supports me. Another question that I don't get asked is, what is my favorite microphone to sing into? Um and I really like the, Sennheiser dynamic microphone. Right now, it's my favorite to sing into. It's the standard Sennheiser dynamic. I can't remember the number. I think it's 400 something. Um, is become one of my favorites. Before that, though, it's the, Shure SM58 Beta was my, that's in my top 2.
Okay, Generally, I'll let it go right there, but you spoke of your parents having influence in your music. And
Mm.
I'm just kind of curious, how did
Oh,
your
cool.
upbringing influence your music? Because you do have original music, but you make your
Mhm.
money covering other people's music.
Yeah. So, um, my dad was from the Midwest. My mom is from New York. My mom was a first generation American woman. My dad, he's been in America and he was actually adopted. His family roots are in America. So the interesting thing about that was like when I was a kid, I'd be getting driven to school with like Italian opera and like classic like sing-along songs playing on the radio. And my grandma would sing to me in the car. And I think that just inevitably had an impact on, like, hearing her she would sing, like, she would, at the top of her lungs, be yelling her Italian songs, and I mean, when it came to time as a kid to be in choir and stuff, because I did choir when I was pretty young, I mean, that's what I was shown, that's, like, how it was, so that had a big impact, but also, my mom, she was from, New York. She literally, like, was down the street from where Bon Jovi had band practices. So she was, like, showing me Bon Jovi and Billy Joel. My dad, he was more into, like, 80s hair metal, so he showed me Judas and Whitesnake and, even, like, weirdly enough, like, Train. My dad showed me Train when I was a kid. So, like, I got so lucky that my parents, even though they weren't, like, musically as literate as they could have been, they had such a diverse sort of palette and diverse love of all of these different genres that all kind of fused into my young adolescent baby brain to become what is now me performing them for people.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've made it to the end of this show. I would like to thank Mr. CJ Brewer for this lovely interview and teaching me a few things I did not know about being an event performer. Um, if you would like to know a little bit more about event performing, you can hit him up on social media or you can comment below. Ask me to ask him next time we talk because I have a few more questions that I'd like to dig a little deeper into, and maybe we can schedule something on both of our giant calendars for a little bit later on. I know you're a busy man, you
Perfect.
got a lot of stuff coming up, but I would like to sit down and talk again. So, again, I'd like to say thank you for coming on the show, and I guess we will talk again later. All right. Thank you.
Chris, dude, thank you so much. It's been an honor, an absolute pleasure to sit here, have a drink with you, have a lovely chat on this Saturday afternoon. I love what you're doing, man. Keep it up. I love seeing the different artists you've interviewed and the clips you share. Looking forward to seeing what comes of this conversation. And yeah, we'll get another one on the books very soon.
Cause daddy's just too busy. A trophy wife tragedy is all that she'll ever be. Insatiable, replaceable. A trophy wife tragedy. A trophy wife tragedy.